Join us at the India Economic Summit, Sustaining the Dream Run, on 5th December in New Delhi. With over 100 unicorns and more waiting to come up, it's time to celebrate India's entrepreneurial spirit. Join us at the India Economic Summit, Sustaining the Dream Run, on 5th December in New Delhi to celebrate this and more.
I believe that if we work well, we work together, and even media organizations like ours can play a small part in this. I believe that by 2030, we should be established as one of the economic superpowers in the world. We have just announced the imminent launch of Republic Business. So it's a very important day for us. We're very glad that you're with us today. So thank you for making all the way for this journey and being with us.
Thank you for having me, and congrats on the launch of Republic Business.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I mean, also many congratulations on your new assignment. It's very challenging. I'm told the whole reporting structure is also in Meta is becoming more India focused in a way. We're very happy about that. So congratulations on your new initiatives and everything that you're going to do in the future. Let me start, Sandhya, by asking you, we keep hearing this in terms of the global digital economy, and in terms of Meta in particular, and in terms of what Mark Zuckerberg always said. And he said it in September that India is the country which is going to be at the forefront of a lot that we're going to talk about today. He keeps putting India right up there. Now, how do you view India? How do you view where our digital economy is placed? And what can Meta do to be a more involved, even more aggressive participant in that story?
Many questions in that one question, Arnab.
It's one broad theme.
But I think it's been a year actually since I've started, so it doesn't feel new anymore. So I'm still learning about, I've come back after many years, so I feel a lot more settled, but also equally, I think every day my excitement grows about the opportunity that India offers. It's hard not to be in this country, watch the pace of change that's happening, and not feel excited. Like for all of us proud Indians, I think this is a pretty pivotal moment for our country. So before I talk about Meta, I want to talk, I'm sure you heard it from a lot of speakers. I just heard, Amitabh talk about this as well, just in the earlier session about India and the opportunity. I want to talk about three things that excite us and me as well personally. One is just this rapid pace of digital transformation that's sweeping through our country at this point. And I think enabled by the fact that we have cheaper connectivity now. If you look at it, there's 5G rollout that's happening across the country, cheaper handsets so everyone can be digitally connected. So that pace that we're seeing of digital transformation is just really exciting to watch. It's truly transformational, and it excites us at Meta. The second thing that's happening is just, if you look at, which I think is unique to our country, which I think is our secret sauce, is just the investments in digital public infrastructure. You heard about UPI a little while ago, but if you think about it, we went from, I think the number was around 180 million transactions in 2018, which were, UPI payments, to this month in October, I think we announced 11 billion transactions on UPI. We're half of what's happening globally. If you think about that being followed up by ONDC and all the others that are in the works, just the sheer amount of transformation enabled by DPI is our secret sauce, and I think that's something for other countries to emulate, and that's certainly super heartening to see. The third is just, what you're seeing in terms of real GDP growth, the macroeconomic tailwinds that you're seeing in the country, in terms of investments coming into the country, and the tech sector is a big part of that. And I'm lucky that I get to work with a lot of those founders. But that's also, when you see the depth of talent, the problems that they're solving for and how they're innovating, the startup founders as well as all the companies in the country. I think that's also very exciting for us. So what does that mean for us as Meta, right? What that means for us is that this is our largest user base, globally for us. This is we connect more than 500 million Indians. And so for us, that comes with, this scale where we can build for India, we can innovate for India. And we've certainly been doing that. The Reels tab, it's almost 3 years old now, was first launched in this country. JioMart, with WhatsApp, the partnership that we did, it may look like a partnership, but it is the first time we actually built a commerce experience on WhatsApp globally. And we've used those learnings to build elsewhere. Closer home, recently this year, we launched the Facebook broadcast channels. I don't know about you, Arnab, I consumed a lot of my ICC cricket on WhatsApp broadcast channels as well. So, you see all of those features that we're building with an India lens, or, launching in India in the first set of countries that we're launching it in. So, for us, that's how we think about India as being this super exciting marketplace with a country with amazing tailwinds, and what can we do to meet users where they are and build for them.
Yeah. I have a bone to pick with you later as far as what
ICC?
people are watching on Facebook is concerned, because I would like people to watch more news and not just cricket on Facebook. So I have a question with you on that. But yes, it's very, very exciting. I mean, I personally think, Sandhya, that we never imagined we'd be 11%, 12% of our economy, digital economy. And I think it's a matter of time before 25% of our economy is, at least the digital economy is about 25% of our overall economy. No question about that. Now, some hard questions out here. Since Meta is going to have such a major play in India, we are coming up with a Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023, right? And I want to know, when India is such a big base, such a big market for you, then you have a fiduciary responsibility. You have a fiduciary responsibility to those who are processing the data, to those who are using the data, to those who are giving consent, and those who are the owners of the data. So data becomes a very controversial question across the entire world now, and we're going to have to deal with this. So I want to deal with three elephants in the room, and my first question is, are you ready to completely comply with the Data Protection Act, or will you, through various lawyers, etc., try to find a way around it? It's because we see, the way I look at it, Sandhya, we're a nation-first channel. We always have this view that if you're doing business in India, you have to do it on the terms of the people of India and the government of India, not the terms of Silicon Valley. So how do you view that?
Arnab, I want to sort of pivot to what we've done on privacy so far, and since 2019, and I'll come to DPDP in a quick minute. But since 2019, we've doubled down on privacy, and we've invested almost $5 billion in making sure that our products now have a privacy first lens. So that's commitments that we've made internally in the company, or every product that gets launched goes through privacy reviews. So we've really sort of taken that pretty seriously in terms of how we secure our users' data and the privacy safeguards that we're putting in. And that remains very much an effort that we continue to invest in and we continue to double down on. Coming to DPDP, I think our stance has always been that we welcome regulation, that we always follow the rules and the laws of the land. We welcome regulation that fosters innovation, but at the same time keeps users safe. I can't comment on specifics of DPDP yet because the rules are not out. But so far, I think we've been working with the government quite closely in terms of giving our input into DPDP, and we welcomed the fact that there is clarity that is being brought
Yes.
by the establishment of DPDP.
Yeah. But Sandhya, these conversations will become more intense because India is also going to have a lot of scrutiny over what's going on. For example, in America, there was this whole case where there were over 1 million users of, I think it was Instagram, who were less than the age of 13. And it became a controversy in America. And then the question was, why is Facebook not disabling all these accounts? The question is broadly this. See, between business, between making money and your responsibility at an ethical level, at a data protection level, how do you view these challenges in the Indian context? Because India is also becoming very, very careful about ensuring the rights of its citizens and users of all Meta products.
So, Arnab, I don't think the two are in. I want to go back to what we do as a company as well, right? I think user safety is of paramount importance to us. There's no place on the. I'm the mother of a 15-year-old myself who uses Instagram. So, for a lot of us, it's also personal around how we keep people safe on our platforms. So, again, I go back to the investments that we made as a company in keeping users safe, fighting misinformation on our platforms. I think we've spent $20 billion so far on that effort globally to keep people safe on our platforms. I'd go back to the tools that we've built. We've introduced almost 30 tools to keep youth safe on our platform on Instagram. And now the work and coming to what you just said around India, and it's around making sure people also know those tools exist. So in fact, we did a Digital Suraksha Summit in March of this year. Since then, we followed up with work that we've done in Karnataka. So we just did that, a few weeks ago, where we're working with academics, academia, we're working with, people across, non-profits to make sure that people are aware that even as we launch tools, that they know that those tools are there and that they can use them. But I agree, there's, this digital field is evolving super quickly. We have to make sure that we continue to invest and continue to protect users, especially youth, on our platform.
Because, again, in the context of every nation, how social media is used or can potentially be misused is a matter of concern. So my second specific question to you was, for example, how do we make sure, Sandhya, that we work together to serve the national interest? And let me specify this further. I get very alarmed, in a recent quarterly report released, threat report released by Meta, it was revealed that Meta has successfully dismantled a large network of over 4,700 accounts originating from China. These accounts, pretending to be Americans and pretending to be Indians, were actively involved in disseminating misleading information about divisive subjects related to Indian politics. Now, as a nationalist, my concern is I want Meta to work in India. I want us to work together. But then it also becomes Meta's responsibility to the people of India to ensure that fake users who are using the medium as a tool, as a medium to manipulate what's going on the ground does not happen. We have an election coming up, and so I'd like your views on this in the past.
In fact, the fact that we reported us, that tells you that we're working on it, right?
I acknowledge that point.
So the bit that I would like to say is on elections, especially we've seen around 200 elections play out, and we have learnings from that we incorporate into every next election. So you can be rest assured that for the Indian election, that's, and we already saw a few of them just pass by, but for the national election, that's, the teams that are working on it. And I would talk about a few things. One is there's no place for coordinated inauthentic behavior on our platform. When we find it, we've gotten really good, especially with the use of AI on our platform, to take down a lot of coordinated inauthentic behavior. And we talk about it when we do take them down. The other bit that I would say is that our learnings that we've seen from 200 elections is again something that we are incorporating into making sure that, those learnings are playing into what we're doing in the next election, the upcoming elections. The last bit, and you talked about how we can work together, we have the largest set of fact checkers globally in the country. We have around, we partner with 11 fact checkers, and we rely also on them, to make sure that we are, taking down content that is not right. We are, sharing information that's legitimate. But I think underpinning all of this is that we want our voters to be, in any country that we're in, we want to help voters have a voice and to participate in the civic process. So that really remains the goal. And we have gotten really sophisticated, like I said, over a period of time in actually figuring out election interference, be it domestic, be it foreign networks, and we keep our eye out on that. We've learned our, lessons on that, and we've gotten really, I think, pretty good at taking that down. But it'll keep coming, so there will be, threats, and we'll have to just get better and better at handling those threats.
I've always wanted to ask, if I ever get a chance to ask Mark Zuckerberg a question, I would, but since I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him, and I would like to ask that question to you. You are today very graciously at an event of one of the largest news networks of the country. Tell me, Sandhya, why is Meta anti-news? Why are you against the news industry? And I'll explain this to you later, but because see, in India, we are not China. We have a free press, we have free conversations, and that's what makes us unique. But Meta has taken an anti-news position. You don't promote you don't like.
I would say that is your characterization of it. So, you should ask Mark Zuckerberg this question. Then
you're deflecting the question. I will ask Mark when I meet him. But honestly, why are you against news?
No, I would not say we are anti-news. I think we've talked about.
You are, and I'll explain why. But you would promote people watching cricket. You would promote people watching movies, but you block news on your platform. And this is a recent phenomenon. And my own thought on this is that if there have been things which have been wrong in the past, and if Facebook, as it was then called, got into controversy that it promoted this or promoted that, controversy is a part of life. You can't shy away and say, oh, we don't want to get into controversy, so we'll block news. See, Sandhya, you removed the dedicated tab of Facebook News, right? In the UK, France and Germany, right? You are removing it in UK, France and Germany. I'm saying this is not limited to India alone. You are telling British people they should not watch news, Germans they should not watch news. And I personally believe, you can ask anyone in this audience, they will say that if you take news away, then a significant chunk of information will go away. And why would that not change?
So I think, Arnab, the way to think about it is we always look at what consumers and users want on our platform, what they're consuming, how they want to connect. And if I go back to, what we see happening on our platform, which is news consumption, I think, and I could be wrong with this number, but was less than around sub 2 or 3% on our platform. So very little news was anyway being consumed on our platforms. People were using our platforms to discover communities, to connect with people. Lots of work, lots of businesses get discovered on our platform, especially Instagram. So I would say that, a lot of our thinking around news has definitely evolved, but we continue to remain a platform that wants to connect users with what the causes or the people or the communities that they care about. We should actually, because it's the India Economic Summit, Arnab, I'd love to talk about what we're doing with Meta in India. What we're thinking about is, investments that we want to make in the country.
I'll certainly get you on that, but I must ask you this question one more.
And that was my answer.
One more, and my point is this. In Canada, for example, I know these are controversial issues, but in Canada, you have blocked news altogether. The law requires you to compensate people for that. Again, a broad brush question, Sandhya. We must address this elephant in the room. Suppose you have a lot of young people are there. For them, if their primary source of information is Instagram or Facebook, and they don't get any news on it, you are therefore influencing them to be divorced from the realities around them and live in a bubble where they'll only get news about entertainment and cricket, and maybe that's not fair. So I wanted a commentary on that, then I'll get back to what Meta's doing.
Sure. So I would say that also there are opportunities for news channels to act. So WhatsApp broadcast channels, we do see a lot of channels using that very effectively to communicate and reach their followers and an audience. Reels, we are seeing news platforms innovate and get. So you also have to think, Arnab, about how consumer behavior is shifting. So a lot of consumer behavior has shifted to short form video. So what we find is people who are finding success on our platforms, news channels, have innovated for that format, and we are working with them around how they can actually better sort of cater to what people are consuming on our platform, both in terms of what they're seeing, what interests them, but also what formats work, because attention spans have changed, what people are consuming has shifted. So that's work that's ongoing, and that remains a commitment that will continue to work with news channels around that.
Now tell me about the nature of the investment which you were just alluding to. We have such fantastic broadband connectivity now coming up. It's phenomenal. You can't recognize what's going on right now. And all these next generation communication technologies that we are seeing, 5G, They will bolster the sharing of online content. There will be ethical issues, but they will also significantly create a new version of a creator economy, where everybody is like a content creator. This will generate jobs. This will change the nature of marketing. This will change the number of revenue, revenue streams that are likely to open up. So now, give me a broad brush of this. Where do you see your role? Who are your principal competitors in India, if any? And what kind of job creation can this create, the 5G enabled economy?
I'll take that up in a few parts. Yes. One, I want to talk about creators, because if you think about it, and I was looking at other markets and other countries and the growth that they're seeing, what we're seeing on India is pretty amazing. We see almost, I think if you read this ZEFMO report that came out, 100 million people in the country identify themselves as digital creators, right? And I recognize that we have, a consequential role to play, because many of them, are probably on our platforms, right? So a lot of the work that we're doing falls into a few buckets. One is around skilling. So how are we thinking about skilling and, teaching these people the tools that exist, how they can come on our platform, how they can build on our platform. So we have something called Born on Instagram that we launched a year or two ago, which is, I think, I would wager a guess, is probably the world's largest creator program. We have almost 8 lakh people that have gone through that program. And, you can talk numbers, but I'll give you an example. I was with Raj Shimani on a podcast. He told me that during COVID, he was at a crossroads and didn't know what he wanted to do. He's a famous podcaster. And he was a first cohort of Born on Instagram. And he said that gave him the confidence and the tools that he needed to set up his Instagram presence and then build a livelihood and, have a very successful podcast coming off of that. And that is the journey that we're seeing with Born on Instagram, which is tier 2, tier 3 cities, giving creators a voice. And hopefully someday they'll also be on your channel, working with you, Arnab. But that's one part that we're seeing. The second part that we're seeing is just, giving them not just Instagram. We launched Threads. We now have Facebook and WhatsApp broadcast channels. So giving them more tools to reach their followers, more platforms. That's the other bit where, we made significant investments. The third is on Meta Verified, simple thing where you get the, you get the blue check mark, but you also get access to, support and all of that. One of the things that we did in India, which we don't do in too many markets, is we provided language support in Hindi, because we realized, for Meta Verified, it's not going to cut it if it's just English. Similarly, when we think about that lens on even what we're building, lastly, I would say on the creator side, we're giving them tools to keep themselves safe on the platform. Around, they can do a whole bunch of things where they can block unwanted solicitations, comments, all of that. So that's the investments that we're making on creators. I'll come to the second bit, which is, the work that we're doing on small businesses. Again, when I think about the country and where it's at, if you're talking about this relentless pace of growth, you need everyone to be digitally, aware, savvy, skilled, know the tools that we're putting out there. So we launched a partnership with Kate earlier this year. First we announced we'll train 1 million traders. Then we realized the demand and, what we needed to do, the job that we needed to do was so big that we increased that number to 10 million traders over the next 3 years. We have a partnership with the Ministry of Education and Skilling where we said we'll train 1 million entrepreneurs on how they can use our platforms, because we recognize, Arnab, I'll give you a number, 60% of people on our platform on WhatsApp message a business, on every week. And that's the number that Mark shared during the earnings call. So we recognize that there is a lot of, people that are starting up a business or, supporting customer service, things like that happen on our platform. Amitabh was here just a little while earlier. Even big businesses do that. He's disbursed around 1,000 crores of loans on WhatsApp. He talked about it. He adds 1 million customers on WhatsApp every month. So both for small businesses and large businesses, we want to make sure that the population is, as far as we can. And I know it's not enough. There's always more we can do. But provide them the tools and the skilling skilling that they need and build products with an India first lens. So making sure, like we did with WhatsApp, we announced Flows, which was, again during the same September event, we announced, which will really benefit small businesses. And, if you think about it, you no longer need to spend a lakh setting up a web page. You can set up a free, catalog on WhatsApp almost instantly. So those are the two big areas. The last bit I'd like to talk about is the investments that we're making in AI. Again, I think India will play a big role to play. I think there were some stats that said 30% of all contributions to GitHub globally come from Indian developers. I think 20% of all AI talent is Indian today, right? So there is a leadership role we can play. And one of the things that we've done when we launched Llama 2, our first partner, when we did the initial launch globally was Geo. Since then, I've been doing roundtables and stuff. I've been really enthused by the enthusiasm of developers using Llama 2, which is open source. So we want to do more there. Even on the data sets that we're building, for example, casual conversations is a data set that helps figure out accents and voice, languages and all of that. It includes, many hours of Indian voices, languages and all in that, which we've released to academia and researchers globally. So those are some ways in which I think we continue to invest in the country.
That's absolutely amazing. We were talking earlier to Mr. Hardeep Puri. Mr. Amitabh Kant was there, and I am of a view, as I'm sure you are, Sandhya, and everyone in India, is that we will be a superpower. We are getting into the 10 trillion clubs closer than we really imagine. So both of these things will happen around the same time, Sandhya. We'll cross 20% of our GDP being from the digital economy and cross 10 trillion. So I always say this, especially when there's a young audience, I always say this, Sandhya, the best is yet to come. So always say, imagine somebody who is born in India in 2000 and somebody therefore who's 22, 23 years old today. When that person will be 30 years old in 2030, we will be a 10 trillion economy, with 20 to 25% of that GDP coming purely from the digital economy. We will be a very exciting economy, truly. I mean, it's going to be an incredible period for the young people here. 2030. And all of the young people who are the cell phone generation. We started using cell phones after getting out of college, This is the generation that is a cell phone generation. It's going to be magic. 2030 is going to be a magical year. And I have this aspiration that every second Indian business, every second Indian professional, every second Indian entrepreneur should have a global footprint. You have to do that. And that's what's going to open things up. That's the catalyst. Then what the Prime Minister says, we will be a developed country by 2047. Surely we will, maybe even earlier. Now, my question there is, have you given it a thought, and maybe you will, and maybe something you're doing now may coalesce into that in the future. What about Meta investing in businesses to accelerate their integration into a global value chain?
Absolutely.
Is there a possibility for you?
So you talked about 2030. One of the stats that stood out for me is I think on the fintech side of the house, by 2030, 12 or 13% of the fintech economy is supposed to be 1.5 trillion. We'll be around 200 billion. So wherever you see, I think the leadership position is ours to take. And I see lots of like you said, young people in the room. It will be amazing to see all of them play a consequential role in making that happen. So coming to what we're doing, I think some of the investments that we're making in skilling is real, right? So even with CBSE, what we're doing now is, we're training 10 million students in the emerging technologies of tomorrow, right? We're great where we are, but with AI coming in, with MR, AR, VR, MR, how can we sort of make sure that our students are ready for what's going to be the technological advancements of the future? That's one place where we've committed, we're investing. And it's not just students, we're also training teachers, 1 million teachers as well, because so they're ready and they're not like, I don't know about you, Arnab, but every day I feel like I'm on a treadmill on technology, right? So I wonder how teachers feel. So that's another investment that we're making. On businesses and entrepreneurs specifically, we have a program that we did with METI around XROS, which is we funded around we had an accelerated for 120 startups where we gave them the know-how on building for XR. We have a 3 million grant. Again, we're doing more in this area where we built MR apps with the startup. So I don't know if it was there when you put up that video. IB Cricket is, a bunch of young, enthusiastic, startup founders from Hyderabad who are building a virtual reality cricket game. Now, as the VR headsets gets cheaper, as the form factor becomes more ubiquitous, think about what this does for already our developer base is going to be the largest in the world. We want to help them build for the world and give them the tools and the training and the mentoring that is required to get there. So we've done those. We've invested, of course, we've invested in Geo, Unacademy, Misho. So I think we're along with skilling, along with accelerators, along with programs that we're doing with the government, a lot of public-private sector partnerships that we are a part of and will continue to be a part of. I think you'll see us as excited about the 2030 milestone as you are.
Yeah. So everybody, I'm sure that when you took on this job, you had this, this aha moment, like this is an opportunity to do something for your own country, right? So is there any experience in the last 1 year, more at a personal, possibly you can share at an anecdotal level, that makes you feel that this is the moment? We all have it in our different careers in different ways. Any particular moment for you professionally, personally in the last year?
I actually think it's not just one moment, it's many moments. I came back, I've been back home now after 17 years. And I think for all of you in the room today, I would say this, especially the ones who are just starting out their careers. I mean, there's really no better time to be in our country, right? Just the pace of change, the problems you can solve. I'll give you some examples where it sort of came home to me on the impact that each one of us can have, right? Bangalore Metro, when we launched tickets on WhatsApp, 5 lakh people every month, and this is an old number, so it's gone up, buy their tickets on WhatsApp every day. And, it's the fact that you're cutting queues, you're cutting lines, you're solving meaty problems. We did the same with Delhi Metro. We've been overwhelmed by the response that we've seen. So that is, a small example. 2, when I meet creators, I met somebody in Hyderabad. Her father was a driver in Kakinada, and she never thought that she would be at a place where she was inking brand partnerships and doing stuff on Instagram. So there's just, what I see every day on our platform, which gives me hope, right, around how India's youth is actually changing the game. They don't take the status quo for granted. They're finding new ways, they're learning skills, they're really like building, and they're part of the change of what we want to see in the country. And I think the government, you have to really sort of give it to the government for actually enabling the infrastructure, giving clarity around regulations, building DPI to actually enable this growth to continue. For me, at a personal level, I think it's just been, it's kind of a small thing, but every time I breeze through an airport with Digi Yatra, and then I get stuck in long immigration lines in the US, I can tell you, India is like come of age. There's time and again I see examples of where we're innovating, where we don't take status quo for granted. So
that's absolutely fabulous, When you go from Heathrow to Bengaluru airport, you feel you've arrived in a first world country. But it's so amazing, isn't it? I mean, when we see the numbers, 800 million internet users potentially in the next 6 months, 600 million smartphone users. Just imagine, Sandhya, and tell us today, in conclusion, what will happen? What will happen when this number becomes a billion? When we have a billion internet users and a billion smartphone users, which could happen in the next couple of years in this country, what's going to happen to this country? And when that now starts getting used for multiple ways in terms of an entrepreneurial effort, what will happen to the country?
So I'm seeing some of that already, right? So I think change will come, but will come a little bit differently. Like, let me tell you what's happening on our platform. One of the things that when we did with JioMart, when we launched the experience, they talked about how all the users that they're getting on WhatsApp JioMart have never shopped online before. Right? They're coming from tier 2, tier 3 cities, experiencing what it means to not like maybe trudge 10 kilometers to buy something, but get it through the JioMart experience on WhatsApp. So what I think will happen is that as we add more internet users, they will find ways to keep companies like us on our toes in terms of what they want, what they demand as user features, as solutions, as products. So it'll be a great time for businesses also to innovate, not just for India, but then take those innovations to the world. So I think that's something that is, very much within grasp of every entrepreneur, every company. I think what it also does is, if you look at in the past when we talked about our economy growing, I think there was the 1% or the 0.1% that kept getting richer. But if you see now, the shape of development and growth in our country and the consumption is really different. We're talking, I think, reading, depending on the report that you read, you're talking about 400 or 450 million people that will start consuming services online. What that does to them, in terms of not just consuming, but also in their quality of life, will be quite amazing. So I do think that there is the change that we're seeing in terms of distribution of income, the change that we're seeing brought about by, again, I come back to DPI because I do think that's a really big game changer. And I hope, I really hope that, I think it means that this kind of spread of internet and having mobile devices means that everyone has access to a higher quality of life, education. When I think about my own personal journey, I think I am where I am because I had access to a quality education. Some of the things that we're doing around skilling and doing it digitally also enables the same thing. So that's my hope.
We're very proud of you, and I think you are a global leader, and you're sure in your own career to play a greater role for the country globally, Sandhya. So we're very proud of that. And we, in our own way, small update, we built a full technology stack for our digital business. We are working very hard to giving a new shape to Republic Digital, and maybe one day we'll do global news using our own homegrown technology.
Wow.
That's so I also thought there was a lot of authenticity in the way you spoke. Thank you for taking those 3 elephant in the room questions. And truly, from everyone at Republic Media Network, Sandhya, thank you for coming, and this has been a fantastic opportunity to speak to you. Thank you, Sandhya.
Thank you, Arnab.
Thank you, Sandhya Devanathan. Thank you. Thank you.
With over 100 unicorns and more waiting to come up, it's time to celebrate India's entrepreneurial spirit. Join us at the India Economic Summit Sustaining the Dream Run on 5th December in New Delhi to celebrate this and more. All set to become a developed nation by 2047. The Indian growth story is an unparalleled success. Be there at the India Economic Summit Sustaining the Dream Run, coming up on 5th December in New Delhi. All set to become a developed nation by 2047. The Indian growth story is an unparalleled success. Be there at the India Economic Summit Sustaining the Dream Run, coming up on 5th December in New Delhi. From satellites to semiconductors, India is on an economic growth highway. Join us at the India Economic Summit Sustaining the Dream Run on 5th December in New Delhi. With over 100 unicorns and more waiting to come up, it's time to celebrate India's entrepreneurial spirit. Join us at the India Economic Summit Sustaining the Dream Run on 5th December in New Delhi to celebrate this and more. With over 100 unicorns and more waiting to come up, it's time to celebrate India's entrepreneurial spirit. Join us at the India Economic Summit Sustaining the Dream Run on 5th December in New Delhi to celebrate this and more. All set to become a developed nation by 2047. The Indian growth story is an unparalleled success. Be there at the India Economic Summit Sustaining the Dream Run, coming up on 5th December in New Delhi. From satellites to semiconductors, India is on an economic growth highway. Join us at the India Economic Summit Sustaining the Dream Run on 5th December in New Delhi. With over 100 unicorns and more waiting to come up, it's time to celebrate India's entrepreneurial spirit. Join us at the India Economic Summit Sustaining the Dream Run on 5th December in